Hi and welcome to Outdoor Living Supply Academy, and this is the 5th video in our paver system series, and this is product selection for the pavement surface. So what I have in front of me is several examples of segmental pavements that we can use in a pavement system. And there is some confusion in the industry of what is an actual paver, and the ASTM, or the American Society of Testing Materials, actually has a specification, which is ASTM C936. It has 3 defined criteria in order to be considered an actual concrete paver. The first is the surface area around the paver, which needs to be 101 square inches or less. The second is the aspect ratio, has to be 3:1 or less, and the aspect ratio is essentially the longest side of the paver divided by the thickness, and that gives you your aspect ratio. 3:1 or less can be considered a paver. And the third is thickness. And this thickness here needs to be at least a minimum of 6 centimeters or 60 millimeters, whichever one you prefer. Anything skinnier than that or larger than 101 square inches is considered a slab. So in my examples here, I have the standard 4x8 Holland stone. I have a 6x9 cobble over here, and both of those fit all 3 criteria. Less than 101 square inches, less than 3:1 in the aspect ratio, and 6 centimeters in thickness. Now we come into a multi-size, a little bit larger format. The larger paver here, which is 10x15, is technically not a paver. It's going to be considered a slab, where the other 2 pieces within the system are actually pavers. And so you kind of get a crossbreed in that selection, in that you're mixing the pavers with the slabs and you still get a pretty consistent installation. And then you get to the very large formats where you have an 18x24 inch. This is clearly a slab because it exceeds the 101 square inches, but it does have a 6 millimeter or a 6 centimeter thickness, and it is not going to meet the less than 3:1 aspect ratio. And then you look at the porcelain plank, and this actually only has a 2 centimeter thickness, so that is clearly not going to be considered a paver. It's considered a slab, or in some cases you could call it a plank as well. The reason that's important is because you need to understand what uses you're going to have for your material before you make that selection. If you go larger format like this 18x24 or this plank like this porcelain, you typically do not want to have vehicular traffic driving on those. If you're doing a driveway or a parking lot, you want to go to the smaller size, more consistent. They're going to be a stronger, more dense product that's going to absorb a lot more of the pressures that'll happen within a parking lot or a driveway type application. This system, where you're kind of mixing the smaller slabs with the pavers, you could probably use in a driveway application where it's just automobiles or light trucks, but you're really not going to want to be able to put this in some sort of parking lot where you're going to have heavy trucks or heavy vehicles. And as far as the planks, you really don't want to use that in any vehicular application unless you're going to be putting, like the porcelain, you're going to put it on top of a concrete base and mortar it into place in a wet set application. So understanding the differences between pavers and slabs is really critical to knowing where you can actually use the product in what kind of conditions and under what kind of stresses it's going to be in. So again, knowing where you are or what your conditions are going to be versus what kind of product you want to use. You want to make sure that the product selection is one of the top things that you and your designer are going to work out when you do a project. So thank you for joining me at Outdoor Living Supply Academy. Join us for our next video in the Pavement System series, where we'll cover our last component, edge restraint. For further information or any additional questions, please refer to the link and email listed below.